Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Kmet. My co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jason. How's it going?
Well, pretty good. You know, we're 2/3 of the way through the long weekend. I think we'll have this released on the holiday Monday, and snow didn't get us, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it snowed a lot in my neck of the woods on Saturday, but it didn't really stick around, so I was pleased to see that. How was your long weekend, though, overall?
Pretty good. We were up in Edmonton, basketball tournament, that sort of thing. So I wasn't able to attend the Wild match on Saturday, but I did get a chance to watch the Cavalry match live tonight, which was a pretty entertaining match in the end.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about that. I also watched that game live. However, that was the only soccer game that I watched this weekend as we're potty training our toddler, and that has been quite the experience. I would say it was a pretty crappy weekend, figuratively and literally, but I'll spare the details for our listeners other than that.
I've been there, done that. So anyway, yeah, let's get to the soccer. This is our weekend recap show where we talk about the matches that happened. We're going to talk about the Wild match here in Calgary. We're going to talk about the Cavalry match out in BC, and only one match in the Alberta Premier League, but we'll talk about that one too.
Yeah, just the one game in APL on Friday night, but they do have a pretty decent slate of games on Tuesday evening. So I guess we can kind of quickly preview those as well. But yeah, we'll be recapping primarily those three games you mentioned.
Yeah, so I think probably a good place to start was kind of the storybook ending there at McWoman Stadium this weekend. So let's maybe talk about that.
Hi, this is Mya Jones. This is the YYC Soccer Podcast.
Montreal Roses were back in town to face the Calgary Wild at McWoman Stadium. 2-2 draw overall, which is a great result for the Wild. That's their first point of the 2026 season in their third match. The way they drew made this game really feel like a win. And I know that's how head coach Sinead McSherry described it in her post-game comments. But a game that the Wild were losing for the most part. And then, thanks to debutante Mya Jones playing her first game in 2 years, they got the point. Mya Jones scoring both of Calgary's goals, despite being subbed in the 75th minute. Pretty dramatic, Hollywood-inspired performance from her in her first game for the Wild.
Yeah, and it also sounds like another player which definitely should get mentioned in this recap is Caitlin Talbert. Sounds like she also had a pretty auspicious debut for the Wild.
Yeah, she did let in 2 goals, but made a decent number of saves. And I think, back from injury, I would imagine that she has staked her claim to be the starting keeper from here on out. But yeah, let's just kind of quickly mention the goals. Montreal had, from what I could tell based on the highlights, Jason, all of the ball in the first half. They were just peppering the Wild's box with crosses and through balls and shots. And in the 24th minute, Lisa Peczerski did head home a ball in off the crossbar. And, well, the first half finished 1-0. And then it took all the way until the 85th minute, 10 minutes after Mya Jones had been subbed in, alongside Callies Johnson, who also, I think, breathed some life into the Wild's attack. 85th minute, Mya Jones, right place at the right time, capitalized on a shot from a tight angle in the box to tie it up. And everybody thought, I think, that this game was going to end 1-1 and that that was going to be the main story. But of course, both teams had a little bit more to say about that.
Yeah, so in the 90th minute, Montreal took the lead. It was Claire Menard, and she was able to put the Roses up in front. And yeah, like you said, probably the thought would be, well, that's going to do it. And Wild are going to end up not getting anything out of this match. But yeah, Mya Jones very quickly thereafter was able to equalize.
Yeah, immediately after, I think. And she was once again prowling in the box, right place. I think, Jason, we should talk about her positional awareness in general. Just seems to be something that the Wild's attack has lacked a lot in the past. But got on the end of a cross to tie it at the death and to, as we've mentioned, make sure the Wild got their first point of the 2026 season. So, of course, all of the storylines centered around her, right? Like, as we said, this is her first professional soccer game in 2 years. She's been out injured for a very long time and coming back home. You and I speculated that maybe if she's fit, she could be a star player for this team. And so far, so good, right? You have an interesting stat here that you've written down that with her 2 goals, she's already one of the Wild's all-time top scorers.
Yeah, she's tied for 4th in all-time leading scoring for the Wild in 15 minutes of play. So it's, I guess that maybe says a little bit about the lack of scoring punch over the last year and a bit. But I would agree with what you were saying there. It seemed like the goals were, her finishing was great, but I think a lot of it was just she knew where to be. She was, it was very intuitive for her to be in the right spot and kind of had that sort of awareness, which she didn't have to make any kind of crazy athletic play. She just was in the right spot and buried it.
And you know what it reminded me of? Her first goal, I saw a goal that looked just like that for Foothills that she scored back in UWS in, I want to say, 2023. So I think this is something, that she has in her locker, in her game. Like, she has that positional awareness, knows where the goal is, right? That fox in the box attitude. So I do think, this is a very knee-jerk reaction for me, I admit, but I think that she can be quite the asset for the Wild, just in that one perspective of having good positional awareness, because that is something like we've seen a lot of crosses to no one, right? When it comes to the Wild or layoffs that, the ball went to the right place, but there was no one there to connect. So a little bit reactive for me to say that, but based on what I've seen of Mya Jones in the past, like, she really can be a star player for this team.
Probably for the next little while, it's going to be expected that she'll probably be starting on the bench and she can come out and, provide spark and get some goals as a substitute. It's probably going to take a while to stretch her out to playing a full 90 minutes. But based on what we saw, I think we take that. She made use of all 15 minutes she had out there and then some.
Definitely. So thanks to this draw, the Wild are off the bottom of the table. They're just 1 point ahead of the Vancouver Rise, who are 0-3 after their first 3 games of the season. Yeah, I mean, they're 3 points back of Halifax, and if I'm not mistaken, don't they play Halifax pretty soon?
They play Halifax next weekend here in Calgary on Sunday afternoon.
So that's a great opportunity to potentially climb the table and be level on points with not only Halifax, who are on 4, but AFC Toronto are on 4 as well at the moment. So looking at the table right now, there is some separation at the moment between Montreal, Ottawa. They're at the top of the table with 10 and 9 points respectively. AFC Toronto is already 5 points back. So similar to the CPL, I think there's a little bit of a 2-horse race in the NSL at the moment. But yeah, this is going to do a lot for the Wild's confidence, I think. After opening the season with 2 losses and some pretty rough performances, like, this could really give the team the spark that it needs to go on a good run.
I heard this a long time ago. I can't remember who it was attributed to, but sometimes when you support a club or you're following a club, what you need sometimes, in the face of maybe not being at the top of the table or anything like that, you need hope. And I think that Mya Jones infused a heaping help of hope. So yeah, I think it does seem a little bit brighter in the Wild world, I think, today.
Mm-hmm. Mya Jones, A New Hope. I think that could be the episode title. No, maybe not. But anyway, a good day for the Wild. Their first point of the season. Hometown hero. Yeah, great storyline all around.
Hi, I'm Levi Lang, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, let's move on and talk about Cavalry. They were in Langley on Sunday evening playing Vancouver FC. Last year, Cavalry had a bit of trouble securing 3 points from the Eagles, but they were able to make that happen today.
Yeah, 2-0 win out in Langley. Goals coming from Toby Orshevsky and Levi Lang, both in the second half. A game that I, for most of it, was thinking, what are we going to talk about? Because there really wasn't a lot of excitement at either end of the pitch. But Toby Orshevsky, he put the visitors up front in the 70th minute with a breakaway goal, mistake from former Cavalry defender Tom Field. playing him onside. He tried to step forward and put him offside, but mistimed that judgment. And then Toby, decent finish past Callum Irving. And then, it felt like a game that was going to end 1-0. And then 90th minute or thereabouts, Tommy Wheeldon Jr. subbed in center back Levi Lang for Toby Warshevsky. And I don't know, maybe Toby transferred some of his scoring finesse to Levi Lang, but he gets on the pitch and 20 seconds later, he put the ball in the back of the net. So Levi Lang with his second goal of his pro career.
Here's the thing about that play. When they made that switch, I was like, so where exactly are they going to position him? Because they're not going to just put Lang up there in Toby's spot exactly. They'll put him somewhere else maybe. Nope, they put him up there, and I saw him up there, and I'm like, okay, well, that's a choice, like I'm a little surprised at that, but sure, why not? And then by the time I had that thought had entered my mind, he was already like the ball was in the back of the net. So,
and you know what? Kudos to him. I mean, watching that pass back to Callum Irving, I think the first thing I thought was chase it down. And Levi Lang did that. He sprinted at Callum Irving. He's fresh legs, right? He literally just stepped on the pitch, so why not? And Callum Irving, really bobbled this, and he would know that, right? Like, this was a big gaffe from the goalkeeper. Basically coughed it up to Lang, and he had an empty net. But it was so funny that I think he got subbed in, and my wife was on the couch with me, and she said, why put a player on when they're going to blow the whistle in a couple of minutes? And I said, well, it's to waste time. But then he scores the goal, and I'm like, or it's because the head coach knew something we all didn't. So it was a pretty entertaining finish to what was otherwise a pretty dull game, I thought.
I think it was kind of impressive that, a player that doesn't play up front regularly had the presence of mind to realize to jump on that. Like, that entered his thought process right away. Like, maybe as a defender, you wouldn't think of that right away, but hey, he did. And then the other thing is too, I've commented on here before several times about how I know how well loved Levi Lang is, like, in the organization in general, but did you see the reaction from his teammates when he scored? Like, if there was ever any doubt about how much the team likes this guy, I think you could see it in the celebration.
Oh, bedlam, eh? It was, it was like they'd won a trophy or something. Like, they were just all jumping on his back. They were so excited for him. It was cool. Good to see. I feel like that's not the first time I've seen like a very boring game at Langley's Field. Like, Cavalry and Vancouver FC games in Vancouver are often not that exciting.
From what I saw, like, I don't think Vancouver's a great team, but they're not a bad team. Like, they're not terrible.
No,
like,
and they often play Cavalry well.
Maybe my expectations are low, but I thought they played decently. So Cavalry ends the weekend in second place. Here's the thing, Scott. We talk about how in the CPL, it's kind of been a two-horse race. But, here's the thing. Before this match happened, Inter Toronto actually was ahead of Cavalry in the standings. They both were on 11 points, but the goal differential was actually more favorable to Inter Toronto. So Inter Toronto is right in the mix right now. And now, of course, Cavs get the 3 points, and they've established themselves up in second place again. But Inter Toronto still has a game in hand. So obviously, kudos to Cavalry. They're doing all the right things. But York United. There's me calling them that. You knew that was going to happen. Inter Toronto are putting together a decent season right now. From what I can tell, at least.
Yeah, still unbeaten after 5 games, and I definitely spoke too soon earlier when I mentioned it being a two-horse race, because you're right, they are right in the mix. Yeah, they're 3 wins and 2 draws in league action. They did lose in the cup just last week. No, I mean, this weekend they beat Pacific 1-0, and before that, their last game was a pretty emphatic 4-1 win over Ottawa, and they had that 1-1 draw with Cavalry at Spruce Meadows, and they had beaten Vancouver FC, and they drew Halifax. So they haven't played Forge yet. I think that'll be quite the litmus test for them, but pretty strong start from Mauro Eustachio and his boys. But Cavalry, as mentioned, second place at the moment, 4 wins and 2 draws, unbeaten after 6, 2 points back of Forge, who are on 16 points at the moment.
Hey everyone, this is Francesco Bartuillo, and you are listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
Let's talk about the APL, and we were just talking about Cavalry FC, but let's talk about Cavalry II. They were involved in the only match on the long weekend. They played Callies United, and they were able to pick up 3 points.
Yeah, I believe this was another game at Slate Friday evening, and they beat Callies United 2-0 thanks to Jax Wielden and an own goal. And the only other thing I know about this, Jason, that you put down in our notes here, Owen Antoniuk and Max Peepgrass both played 90 minutes. And then, as mentioned, a couple of games, actually not a couple, 4 games taking place on Tuesday night, I guess, because pretty much every team except these 2 had a bye for the long weekend. We'll see in the women's division, we'll see the Wild U23 take on Blizzard 3:30 at Maxwell Center. That's the Calgary Soccer Center. And then Cavalry II will be back in action to face Blizzard. This should be a really exciting one, hey? 6:30 p.m. at Slate. And then there's a couple other games taking place too that night.
Foothills will play Rangers, both in the men's and women's divisions at Macron. The women's match will kick off at 5, and the men's match will be at 7:30. And Callies and Villains are playing at Broadview, first match of the year at Broadview. Women's game will start at 5:30 and the men's at 8.
So lots of games coming up on Tuesday night. What do you think about those matchups?
Well, I'm really intrigued for Cavalry 2 versus Blizzard. You know, obviously Blizzard, that team just playing in the Canadian Championship. And I think there's a very good chance we're going to see some Cavalry players like Joe Holiday and some of the other players get into this match because of the timing. They'll be back from Vancouver and they'll have had a day off, I think, on Monday. And then the senior side doesn't play again until Sunday. So it's kind of an ideal time to maybe get some of the more lightly used senior side players a chance for a bit of a run out. So I think we could see some of those guys play. Thank you for listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. You can have this podcast downloaded to your device as soon as it becomes available by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on other platforms. Check out our website at yycsoccer.com, where you can look through our episode archive and find other options to listen, including our YouTube channel. We also have links there to buy Scott's book. It's called Here Come the Cavalry, and it's all about the history of pro soccer in Calgary. You can leave a question or comment in the Contact Us section of our website. You can also interact with us on social media, such as Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, where our username is YYC Soccer 403. Thanks for listening.